Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Mary and here we talk all things houseplants with a bit more emphasis in hoyas. Today's video is about a new series that I decided to create about, guess what? Hoyas. So the first of the 8 videos in total will be about top 8 things in regards to hoyas, and we will be kicking off this mini series with the top 8 tips that I can give to somebody who wants to grow hoyas. So let's start with our first tip. As I mentioned in my previous video, I recently moved flats, and what I realized is that at the new place where I have abundant light, my hoya started growing like crazy. So my first tip for you is give your plants light, and more light. It is true that hoyas like bright but indirect light, with a few exceptions. So if you only use natural light, like I do at home, at the office I have some T8 grow lamps, but at home I have nothing, just some LEDs and all the natural light that we can get from the windows. So in that aspect, I would say that if you do use only natural light, put the hoyas that you would like to sun stress closer to the light. If you have sunshine, if you're one of the lucky ones that you live in a country with full of sunshine, in that aspect I would say yes, put them closer to sunshine. If you see that the leaves start scorching from the sun, then maybe move them a little bit back. But all in all, I would say that most, if not all, of my hoyas do like bright light. The only exception that I can think of at the moment is my Burmanica, because when I have here, I have actually 2 Burmanicas, one at the office and one at home. At the office, when I had her under the T8, it was too hard, I guess, for her, and she started yellowing a little bit the leaves. So the leaves, instead of having this dark green that normally Burmanica has, instead she started having a bit more yellowish. The Burmanica that I have at home, I do not have here in one of my bright windows, let's say. So I have here, I did have here at the beginning, and it was, the leaves started growing a little bit yellowish. But I do love this dark red that Burmanica has, so that's why I moved here away from the light. So that's the only exception that I can think of. Another good example about hoyas and their love of light is my Carnosa freckles. Carnosa is probably the most common hoya for everyone, and I did have my Carnosa freckles plus for a few years. It had never bloomed for me. Once, and let me actually bring it in front. Once I came to the new place and she started growing again like crazy. Actually, I never had an issue with her growing. I do not have her ever in very high light because I like this dark green that she has. But now she's for sure in a higher light environment compared to the past. And now, let me try to find it. Here it is. I'm not sure if you can see, but we have a peduncle with flowers growing over here. So it's the first time that she's flowering for me, or she will flower, and I'm super excited about it. So no matter which hoya you have, I would say just put them in bright light. It doesn't have to be full sunshine. Usually full sunshine is not good for hoyas unless they like to sun stress. So if you do like this reddish hue that many of the species get when they sun stress, then yes, go ahead. And that leads me to the second tip. So you have to research your hoyas. You have to research the origin of the hoya that you have. You need to research the specs of your hoya. It is completely different to have a hoya that grows naturally in the Philippines, that likes it hot and humid, and completely different to have a hoya that grows in the Himalayan region, which like it much colder, let's say. Same for terrestrial or epiphytic hoyas. The needs of a terrestrial hoya is quite different to what an epiphytic hoya is. Yes, most hoyas are epiphytes, but there are a few exceptions, so you need to do your research. A good example is my Imperialis. Imperialis is a terrestrial hoya. That said, I have it in pond. Let me actually grab it for you guys, if I can, because it's a bit huge. Alright, so here you see just part of it, so I cannot, it's big plant. As you can see, the pot that I have here in is quite big. And this is because since the beginning I knew this is a terrestrial hoya. I wanted to experiment growing here in pond, and so far the years that I have here, she's been quite successful in growing in this medium. But since the beginning I had here in a much bigger pot. Because it's a terrestrial hoya, that means that she likes space. So do not restrain her as we normally do. My third tip is related to the previous one. When you research your hoyas, you need to check if it's good to trellis or trail them, if they like to be hanging or if they like a trellis for them to climb. A very good example for that is Hoya bella. Hoya bella is a hanging hoya. You cannot trellis her. The way that she grows, her flowers are like hanging from the leaves, while exactly the opposite is Hoya multiflora, for example, that you cannot trail, you cannot let a multiflora hanging. And let me actually bring over my multiflora, which is currently, well, not currently, she's actually always in bloom. And whoop, I have buds falling. So as you can see, multiflora has a very, let me bring closer, and you see this is the sun scorching that I was telling you before. I do have her in full sun because she really loves it, but this particular leaf was touching the window, so I did get this scorching. So what I was saying is that multiflora has a very thick stem. You see here, it's a super thick stem. It's very hard even to trellis. So this is apparently not a hanging hoya. It grows vertically, technically. And this is, okay, there are a few hoyas that you can either let hang or you can put a trellis on. A good example is carnosa. Carnosas, I've seen a few people have hanging, a few people are trellising. In general, I do prefer trellising my hoyas if I can, because I can manage their growth a little bit better and I can also tame them in a sense. So again, know your plants. If you like a plant hanging, that doesn't mean always that it's the best option. If you like a plant being trellised, check if your hoyas are growing on a trellis, or if they're, for example, shooting out tendrils. That means usually that you need to put a trellis on them and let them grow on this trellis. Tip number 4, do not repot frequently. Hoyas, I don't want to use the word root bound because it's not good to be bound into anything, but they do like to have their roots snug. When you repot, you will most probably see that the Hoya stunts its growth. This is because they first want to develop a very good root system, and then they prefer to shoot out new growth, flowers, peduncles, whatever. A good example, let me show you, is my Sulawesiana. So this is still a very small plant, you can see, and actually I'm going to trellis here pretty soon, but for the time being I just let her grow like that, a little bit wild. If you see here, the cup that I have here in, I got it actually, this one as a either 1 or 2 leaf cutting, I cannot recall, like very, very small size. It has pushed out all this new growth since I have here, but I have never changed the pot that she was in initially. So when she came, I put her in this very small cup. You see, it's I would say maybe twice the size of a shot glass. And I have left her here. If when I saw the first growth I transferred her to a bigger pot, I would probably not see all this growth. So do not repot your Hoyas. If you are doing semi-hydro, usually you will see the roots forming at the bottom. And okay, I will grab again my Carnosa to give you an example. So this is my Carnosa, this is a big girl, okay? And this is the root system developing. All these roots are quite healthy and nice, and there are quite a few roots here. I do not intend to repot her anytime soon. I prefer to let her grow like that, and actually the reality is that if your Hoya is happy, you can leave her in the same pot for a few years probably. The only reason why I do repot is when I see that they are very thirsty, so they suck up all the water within a matter of days. If I need to check the roots for any reason, or if they have really outgrown their pot. There is no other reason for me to repot. They always grow roots, and once they start feeling happy, if I can say that, in their container, then they will start shooting new growth and consequently peduncles and blooms. Tip number 5. Do not, and I cannot stress this enough, do not cut bare vines of your Hoyas. This is how the Hoyas grow. They start first shooting bare vines, like these long tendrils, and then from these tendrils they create the new leaves and the peduncles. I'm gonna show you an example here, which is what I thought was a quinquenervia, but after blooming I realized that I got another Merili. Anyway, okay, I'm not ranting about it to be honest, but by the way, quinquenervia and Merili are almost identical Hoyas. The main difference that you can see is only after it blooms. There are a few other differences, but to be honest, on the eye, for us common people, I don't think we will be able to understand any difference. I had actually my Merili brought from the Philippines while I already had my, what I thought was a quinquenervia, and I have to say the difference between the two, although the leaves are almost identical, my Merili has bigger leaves, has almost, I don't know, latifolia type leaves, like big ones. This has more normal size leaves, so this is why originally I thought that, okay, probably this is a quinquenervia indeed, but now that it bloomed, that's not the case. Anyway, I'm closing this not very small parenthesis, and I want to show you this. So this at the moment is my Merili, apparently blooming, and you see that all the blooms, let me actually bring it down, you see this huge tendril, and you see it has the peduncle here. Same for this vine, it has a huge long tendril and the peduncle here. There are quite a few other peduncles forming right now. I can see, I can count. Okay, 1, 2, 3 on the back, 4 here on the side, 5 on the top. So I have 5, oh, and 6, I think this was my very first one. So do not cut the tendrils, do not cut the, you see, I'm losing the blooms. Do not cut the bare vines. This is how they grow. They first grow the tendril. If they find somewhere to grasp, to attach, that means that you need to put them on a trellis for sure. So they first grow this, then they grow usually either leaves or peduncles, or maybe both sometimes. Although I have to say that from experience, I usually see first peduncles and then leaves on a tendril. If I see on a vine leaves forming, that means that I'm not seeing a peduncle anytime soon. Tip number 6. Fertilize your hoyas. Everyone says that hoyas are not heavy feeders. This is actually quite accurate, but you still need to fertilize them. If you don't fertilize, then they will not give their best, in a sense. Personally, I'm fertilizing, and by the way, do not fear to experiment with your fertilizing routine and with your fertilizer that you are using. I was using many different fertilizers, mainly for orchids. These are supposed to be, if you don't get a specific fertilizer for Hoya, then get an orchid fertilizer. I cannot get my hands in a Hoya fertilizer here in Hong Kong, so I'm using an orchid fertilizer, and I had been using quite a few different ones in the past years until I realized that okay, I have one which is MPK 666. It is a local brand, actually I think it's a Japanese brand to be honest, and I can purchase locally, and I have seen that this is the best fertilizer for my Hoyas. So no matter if people say that Hoyas are not heavy feeders, they are not heavy feeders, but you still need to fertilize. Also, I'm always using a Calimag solution in every watering along with the fertilizer. Again, every single watering. I don't have different fertilizers for different Hoyas. I use the same for all of them. I just make a huge solution and I water all my Hoyas. And so far I have very good results when I started fertilizing with every single watering, especially during growing season. During winter you can fertilize a little bit more sporadically, like every, I don't know, if you water once every week, then maybe every 2 weeks, but still you need to fertilize. Tip number 7. Do not use your tap water unless you are sure about it. That said, for my Hoyas I use anything else. I was initially using tap water, normal tap water. I was putting my fertilizer and my Calimag solution, and I was watering my plants. I was not really happy with how they were growing, and I do believe that this had a huge thing to do with my water, the hardness and the condition that it was in. So tap water can or cannot be good for your Hoyas. Usually I started actually using pH down to lower the pH a little bit, because Hoyas have specific pH that they want or that they prefer. But after that I realized that, you know, why do this and not use any other kind of water? So after that I started using water from my fish tank, which, to be honest, it was also tap water, but at least it was conditioned and stayed in the fish tank for a while, so it didn't have any, let's say, harsh chemicals. The fish tank water was okay, but now I'm using for all my outdoor plants, and to be honest, it's not enough to just water all my hoyas, and this is why I started using either distilled water or RO water, or to be honest, rainwater is also quite okay. We have a lot of rain, but I don't collect water with huge buckets on a terrace or anything. We have dehumidifiers here, so I'm using the water that I collect from the dehumidifiers to water my hoyas. This is quite similar to rainwater, I would say. So once I started doing that and using rainwater or distilled water or RO water that I use at the office, because we have an RO filter there, I've seen a huge difference. So if you do want to use tap water, please go ahead, but before you do that, test your water parameters and make sure that this is good for your hoyas. And the 8th and last tip from me is you need to check for pests thoroughly every once in a while. If you see any issues with your hoyas, that can be, I don't know, like stunted growth, which is very common. It can be flat mites. I have made a video in the past about flat mites. I will put a link above. And okay, apparently you need to check the root system. If you see that something is not going very well and your hoyas are wrinkling, for example, first thing that you need to check is the roots. But I would say from time to time, when you do your watering, for example, do check if something is a little bit off. I will give you an example. I have my Rangsan here, which, okay, this vine is growing nicely. I had used sulfur for all my hoyas during winter, so when they don't grow, I have started doing a routine of putting sulfur in all of them, whether they have flat mites or not. This one was apparently part of the treatment, but as you can see here, I have all this knobby growth. I'm not sure how visible it is, but yeah, that's the case. So because I'm not 100% sure what is happening, I will be checking this one separately. So I will be putting here under a microscope and have a check for pests, in particular for flat mites. Another very common pest that I've been encountering is mealybugs, either root mealybugs or the normal mealybugs that you see on the plant. To be honest, I never had any huge issue with mealybugs. I thought they're very easy to eradicate, especially root mealybugs. For me, it's a very easy solution how to kill them, but I don't know, I know other people are struggling with them. So anyway, with every watering, take a closer look at your plant. Don't just water, you know, like a robot. Just check the plant, see if it's okay, if it's growing nicely. If you see any signs of pests, okay, apparently that's not a good thing, but at least you will know that, you know, if something is wrong, then there is a chance that you may have some pests on your plant. And especially if you have a bigger collection where you have lots of plants together, like I do, this is an issue because, you know, pests tend to go from one plant to the other like that very easily. So guys, all in all, that was my 8 tips for growing hoyas. Especially if you are new in the game, I think that you will find these tips quite useful. If you did like this video, please like and subscribe. This is extremely helpful for me. Thank you all, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.